Shit. What's up? Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Justice's Waiting Room. Delayed, but not denied. Right? Going live here 1 p.m. instead of 8. Um, Took a little trip. I encourage you to do the same. If it hadn't been piss and rain and wasn't on the roads we was on, it'd have been pretty. Uh, so every day when we start this thing up, okay? If it hadn't been piss and rain, bomb cyclone blizzard. Just pointing that out. Bomb bomb cyclone blizzard. What is happening right now? Is Stranger Things being forced upon me? From what I heard, them little mongers are pro-Israel, so I'm off it until I hear otherwise. And as we start the show, always we listen to Edwin Starr's War while I share the show. Okay. Justice's Waiting Room, a daily podcast discussing news and politics, is live on Twitch and YouTube. Just sharing the show. Afternoon. My beautiful wife Taylor, also Stacy, Angie, everyone else. Make sure you do the thing and the stuff. While I do the thing with the thing. Hashtag JWR. As always, free Palestine. Slava Ukraine. Costs nothing to root for the underdog. Typically, their gear's cheap or free. And as always, hopefully you're not on. By the way, here it's my 15th anniversary on Twitter today, and I have not posted there in a long time. Frequently, we talk about where you spend your time and what you do. I'm on Blue Sky, so what left of the social media I'll be doing? Hey Bob, will be done on Blue Skies. It's a lot nicer there. And I want you to know I spent all day scrolling front page of Reddit. None of the shit we talk about at all is floating anywhere near the top of the front page of Reddit. So fear not, the integrity of the show is intact, and that I absolutely don't know what's going on. But remember, we always start our show no matter what's going on in the world. So keep this in mind. The Colts are playing right now. Okay? I have screens in front of me. I could be watching that game. And they're not actually eligible for the playoffs. Anybody that gets hurt is getting hurt needlessly. They should go ahead and just forfeit that game. What the fuck are we talking about? They're way too high paid athletes to play in a fruitless endeavor. And therefore, I'm not like boycotting it or anything. I'm just not going to prioritize it over taking in the news, which is sort of how I see the show. One of the things that you'll never see me do, ever, is make a video asking you to give me money because the big bag meanie media is blocking and suppressing my content. Okay? So you don't have to worry about ever opening up a video for me and me crying about not enough of you liking me or sharing my shit or paying me or subbing to my fucking Patreon. And I think we are all owed that. I think I'm absolutely comfortable. Talk to my wife. She's pissed. I'm kidding, babe. About how I have not attempted to capitalize on what I do, and I will not lean into trend. I will not lean into trying to beg for ends. I'm not here to sing for my dinner. Not this time. No puppet. I'm no puppet. No one's sticking their hand up my ass and telling me what to do. I refuse to take any corporate interest, right? It's the same thing if I was to run for political office, right? There's no company supporting me. And what company would fucking support me, right? Barely my own that I work for. But when we look at the news, okay, stupid people in power doing dumb shit with money. The Defense Ministry has rolled out the Iron Beam laser air defense system across Israel. Low-cost laser interception of drones, rockets, missiles, and mortars, reducing reliance on costly interceptors. Hey, what's up, y'all? So remember what I'd been saying? The whole purpose of this genocide in Gaza is to clear it all out so they can fucking develop it and put a U.S. military base nearby. Russia's now got an Iron Dome up, an interception. Cause how in the world could that place be safe? That's how I really feel. How could it really be safe? Here's another article from Gulf News about how Saudi Arabia has deported more than 13,000 illegal residents in a week. So clearly, what is happening here is the money power of the world has gotten together and decided to exercise their money power and political power, um, deporting people, probably to third countries, right? Yeah, my wife and I had that conversation about like we could look at this from the perspective of someone that wants to make money, but I can promise you, you just don't like the product. You know, one of the things that you don't see me doing, my cadence does not include like, share, subscribe, donate to my Patreon. Turn the bells on. Hit me up with an email request. You can buy more of my time. I am a complete whore. Here, click the links to find out more. Like you'll never. I am not even for fucking 10 seconds. It's not worth a fucking fleck of my time. Not even a second. Not even a fucking blink. Nope. Hell no. Eat this fucking truth. Donald Trump is a goddamn liar. There have been times where I've leaned on my friends here to help us, but I hope that those are few and far between. I hope I am able to give more than I take. Japan and China are going at it over Taiwan, and Russia is vowing to support China. Somebody's got to do it. It's not something that I concern myself with. As much as I appreciate having an audience, I think of it as like a feature, not a bug. Like having other people that are willing to sit, listen, read the same articles, have conversations. Like, you understand how that's been ripped away from us by billionaires who continue to buy up all the big media producers, all these media outlets. These articles we're reading are likely online only. They're skipping out on telling the real story of what's happening here, capitulating to this regime when there's things going on behind the scenes that tell a completely different story. This one, the story of all the other countries in the world picking up their pieces and saying we're going to have to go on without them. And you see how the people in power are starting to become anti immigrant. It's because of climate change. It's because they're unsure what to fucking do. No one's figured out what are we supposed to do when a large country just gets fucking wiped. I mean, I hate to even utter the words, right? Here's an article about all these countries trying to curb over tourism, right? You also got people realizing gotta travel now because it's only going to get worse. And all these places that we want to go to are going to be under fucking water or have been destroyed by fire or what the fuck ever. A bomb, cyclone, typhoon, tidal wave, epic version number 4 or whatever. Fucking, like, this shit is absurd. The Chinese are also worried about the nukes being nuclear capable within the next few years. What happens if I click that button? Yep. All these other countries are basically preparing for war. It's just fucking senseless. So remember, Russia wants the land, right? Ukraine and Russia have announced a temporary ceasefire on the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So we've been kind of following stories related to damage to other nuclear power plants. Huh. The waters around the Queen Elizabeth Islands in western word I am not even gonna uh Tuvaisutuk Tuvaisutuk. I tried. That was a class A effort. Tuvaiwitik? Tuvawitik? Western Tuvawitik. Well, you're on late. Usually it's 7 here, not noon. Yeah. I'd said yesterday during the show we were gonna be on later today. hmm So these are things that all happened after the show yesterday to today, right? Iran's president says the country is in midst of total war with the US, Israel, and Europe. Yep. It lets us tell a more complete story. Um, the UK and Germany have signed a $70 million joint deal to build mobile artillery systems. Advanced artillery mounted on armored vehicles that can fire while moving and hit targets more than 44 miles. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I get it. Trust me, I'm getting it. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to sneeze. Sorry, they're on Twitch. Okay, remember, remember, Trump, Marco Rubio, Scott Walker, Mitch McConnell, they've all taken money from Russian oligarchs who want to build on Ukrainian soil. Marco Rubio has even suggested an economic zone, sort of a DMZ where we can build a club. Think of it like that vibe. Um, man, man, right? But Ukraine won't recognize any territorial changes under any circumstances. So any information coming out, one thing they haven't learned yet with the automation of warfare is that there is no point in it anymore to even have the war. Right. What happens when you run out of countries that don't have checks notes mobile artillery robots that can fire and move and hit targets 44 miles away? What's the point? Dead ass. What are we fucking doing? I mean, we just talked about this the other day on the show. Ukraine has a single robot with a 50 caliber mounted machine gun on it that has survived for 45 days on the front line. Fucking just absolutely demolishing people and vehicles and shit. For what? Remember that I said most of the people in Russia that are part of the invasion into the Ukraine, first of all, they're all mercenaries. None of Russia's standing military is fighting in Ukraine. That's not what they're used for. They are on guard in their country, they're in a war. The front line for the Russian invasion in Ukraine is entirely bought. Some of them get paid pretty well. And I've said this before and I've said this again. I'm not when I say I want to see a more equal distribution of wealth, there will still be wealthy people. There will still be poor people. The thought process is a rising tide lifts all boats, and while we should give everyone a minimum standard of living, right? Like you should get so much of a shot, right? Ultimately, there still will be the rich and the poor, no matter how you slice this, and trying to do it any other fucking way is just going to get a bunch of people fucking killed. You gotta tax billionaires more, right? You gotta legalize cannabis. You gotta have a plan, right? You gotta make the be the change you want to see in the world, right? and it's because the victims that are being attacked will always find a way to defeat you by increasing their automation, right? One of the big developments in war, and I want to be stopped when I'm wrong, but there was a period where countries had fully automatic weapons and other countries did not have fully automatic weapons. So imagine you don't have a fully automatic weapon and you have to reload between rounds, and the other guy can keep sending rounds at your position, and you have to evade and reload before you can return fire. Yeah. And then what's going to happen when your military gets run over? You're going to try to figure out how do you beat that, right? And then now you have that beat. Now you're on the attack, and your EMP pulsing fucking SEAL Team 6 can defeat any robotic force or what the fuck ever. Your EMP pulse shooting. But yeah, the Ukraine is not going to recognize any territorial exchange. So that's the president of Ukraine saying what's our land is our land, effectively. Like none of this is y'all's. They've also dismissed two brigade commanders after they've suffered some false reporting, which again, Russia has a widespread problem of false reporting. And these leaders, these brigade commanders, okay, they're in charge of a lot of people. And it is not uncommon for people to lie about their production and what they're capable of and their impact. It's not out of the ordinary for someone to doctor their impact. Okay, but it's good to see Ukraine. Hey, look, accountability quickly in a timely fashion, right? Here's a Yahoo article, which again, this smells like war in Iran. Venezuela is a failure. They're shifting their focus. Here's Yahoo basically resharing the article from the Jerusalem Post, talking about Iran having the most executions of any country in the world. I don't know. I did see this after the show yesterday. You Canada is going to give $2.5 billion in economic aid to Ukraine. They stood side by side, spoke to reporters at a Halifax area airport. Zelensky touched down for a brief stop on his way to Florida for planned peace talks with U.S. President Donald Trump this weekend. So they were in Halifax, and Zelensky's got to go to fucking Mar-a-Lago. What a turd. Yeah. Come down to Mar-a-Lago. Fucking crazy. We were just in Halifax, bro. We could have come to the White House. The Taliban is cooperating with Switzerland to help them deport Afghan criminals. I thought an Afghan was a type of clothing. Afghani was the people. Am I fucked up? Or is the Afghani the money? Ain't never even heard of these people. Never mind, the article got deleted already. Alawites took to the streets to protest sectarian attacks against them. What the fuck are Alawites and what is a sectarian attack? China has been using technology to intervene in foreign elections to propagate its 2028. Here you go. China, big buyers on AI. I wanna again make sure I use my platform to motivate other people to make stuff. Hey, the wealthy's tendency to rely on cheap labor means the quality of entertainment is fucking nosediving. If you ever thought about like writing a play or a book or a sketch or we're gonna make art or what the fuck ever, please let me be the person to motivate you to like do any of those things. You cannot make worse slop than AI is putting out. I all I'm saying, it's an awful low bar. Anything you do, I think you can make money doing it. You just got to full fucking send. Okay, put your heart and soul in that shit. Because AI is absolutely fucking boo boo. I mean it's bad. I did a little nosedive. That's what I would call that, into some AI content, and it like made me sick. Like I was like, oh my god, this shit's fucking awful. Please make stuff. It'll be great. No one will even notice it's you. Iran says it launched 3 satellites into space from Russia. So obviously, Iran and Russia cozying up, right? It's good. It's good though to me. One of the things I will say is it's showing you who your enemies are. They're all coming out of the fucking woodwork, right? See, what Donald Trump unknowingly has done is kind of awaken all the demons, right? Like China, Russia, North Korea partnering with India, Iran. Now, Bulgaria, per The Guardian, has prepared to join Eurozone amid fears of Russian-backed disinformation. Yeah, want to make sure we speak pretty consistently on. Made 3 very specific protest songs with it. I've said the downfall of society will be Russian and Chinese disinformation. Russia organizes lessons for school children led by notorious Russian neo-Nazi war criminal Alexei Milchikov, known for his neo-Nazi ideology and suspected war crimes in Ukraine, recently gave a government-endorsed lesson encouraged to students at a middle school in St. Petersburg, according to Le Monde. But it forced them out into the light. And now they're just standing there, and it's like, is anybody going to pull the trigger or not? And it doesn't seem like anybody's got the balls. Nobody really wants to go to fucking war. Costs a lot. Costs a lot. Here's a little more on the meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Prime Minister Carney. I think Mark Carney. Yeah. The Jordanian army entering the fray. Al Arabiya is reporting the Jordanian army has launched strikes on drug smuggling networks in Syria. I wonder if these are the true drug targets missing from the U.S. attack. Jesus fucking Christ. Hey, the Switzerland cannot defend itself against a full-scale attack and must boost military spending, given rising attacks from Russia, the head of its armed forces have said. So, Japan, largest increase in their military spending in a long time. Here's Switzerland's army chief. The Kiev Independent. One of the most prominent anti-Kremlin Russians fighting on Ukraine's side was killed during a combat mission in Zaporizhia Oblast, southern Ukraine, with the Russian Volunteer Corps militia reported. Denis Kapustin, also known by his war name White Rex, led the right-wing Russian Volunteer Corps until he was killed by an FPV drone on the southern front. Understand, he might be anti-Putin, but he's a neo-Nazi. The enemy of my enemy is not my friend. I was just snickering at the sort of ploy. I'm reading from CNN.com. Okay. The UK has unveiled a plan to offer a gap year through a new paid program in the armed forces. The Armed Forces Foundation scheme aims to initially recruit about 150 military people to experience military life without long-term commitment. The program will give participants the opportunity to spend a year training and working across the Army, Royal Navy, Royal Air Force. Government hopes to grow the scheme to over 1,000 young people subject to interest in the government, or subject to interest, the government said in a statement. A new area for defense open up opportunities for young people to experience the skills and training offered by the armed forces. Huh. Sort of a ROTC, except outside of high school. It's kind of like Charlie Kirk and the Groypers. Right. The enemy of my enemy is not my friend. And then obviously, to the surprise of no one, Russia is going to try to infiltrate the election system in Ukraine and force Ukraine to hold elections, oust Zelensky so they can get somebody else in there that's going to let us get our land so they can make good. Right? Remember, I have a feeling this goes all the way around, and it's Donald Trump's expecting to profit off the development of this land that I hope you get. Ukrainian experts join practicing NATO Article 5 mechanisms for first time, UK General Staff reports. From Pravda.com. Representatives of the NATO-Ukraine Joint Analysis Training and Education Center, JTEC, took part in the final phase of the NATO Loyal Dolos 2025 exercise to assess the combat capabilities of an alliance unit. I think that's important. Poland is preparing anti-drone fortifications on its eastern border amid the Russian threat. In the next 2 years, holy shit. Militarized borders, not fun to look at. We're almost there. 10 minutes and we'll switch over. Talk about Russia has struck the Kherson thermal plant, cutting residents off from heating. Only source of heating for tens of thousands of apartments in the city. Man, that's. Did not know this, but recently came to know that the U.S. power grid is controlled by nine different companies, corporations. The grid in the U.S. is not a public utility. Should be. Should be. In Belgium, they have banned two different kinds of diesel vehicles, diesel and petrol vehicles. Interesting. Interesting way to do it. Yep. They were talking about robots doing border patrol. Yeah, because nobody wants to do that shit. We're in. How about a nomadic species deciding to become like violently territorial? Do you know how fucking dumb and like inhuman it is to secure your border? Like, you know how fucking stupid that sounds? From what? People? Who the fuck is wants to come here? What are you talking about? I'll never fucking okay. And we are vulnerable ultimately. Polls finally close. Here's from Al Jazeera. Polls finally close in Myanmar as the military holds its first election since a coup in 2021. So the U.S. is going through it. Many other countries are showing you got to go through it. The Italian police have arrested nine $8 million seized in an illicit Hamas funding probe. Charitable associations that invested raised at least, yeah. Mohammed Hanoun, 63, president of the Association of Palestinians in Italy and founder of the Association Beneficia di Solidarità con il Popolo Palestinian, ABSPP, was identified as investigators as the alleged leader of the Italian cell. Prosecutors said more than 71% of donations collected by ABSPP and related associations went to entities controlled by or linked to Hamas. I'm reading. Huh. It's important to understand that Israel created Hamas. The IDF actually created this issue. A magnitude 5.8 earthquake off the coast of northern Peru on Saturday, 6 miles deep. She's burping. She being Mother Earth. That Myanmar election is seen as a sham. Ukraine says Russia is continuing to systematically recruit foreign fighters for war. As I've been saying. Remember, Russia has not mobilized its military because they believe the people will fucking revolt. So they decided to completely hire mercs from other countries to fight this fucking war in Ukraine. Wow. Here's an interesting article from the BBC. It's about a piece of art. So the Treasury is going to cover. The Treasury is set to insure the Bayeux Tapestry against damage for an estimated, I don't know, it says 800 million euro, while it's on loan to the British Museum. It's a 70-meter long embroidery depicting the Battle of Hastings from 1066. And it'll travel from France to London as part of the deal between the two nations' governments. Interesting. Here's a 7.0 magnitude earthquake that has rocked northeastern Taiwan. Is it an earthquake? He wondered aloud. What's wild is that I closed out of YouTube there, so I went to went to post in the chat and there's nothing. Sorry about that. Big earthquake in Taiwan. Interesting. The UN Security Council is holding an emergency session on Israel's recognition of Somaliland. I gotta be real honest with you, I'm not very well researched on Somaliland, but I am kind of wondering, if it's the UN versus Israel. I think I'm with the UN here. So they're saying being held at the request of Somalia. Somalian President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud decried the recognition as an act of illegal aggression. Yeah, and that it went against international law. Meddling with Somalia's internal affairs is contrary to established legal and diplomatic rules. From what I understand, think of it like Somaliland as people, yeah, two unrecognized places recognizing each other. Yes. Of all of the countries in the world that shouldn't be recognizing anyone, is one that shouldn't be recognized itself. Fucking Israel. They're doing it hoping it increases their like heft. It does not. So apparently, here's MS Now talking about Zelensky meeting with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. So keep in mind, Russia delivers massive strike on Kiev ahead of a Zelensky and Trump peace talks in Florida. So keep in mind, you remember Kiev is the capital city of Ukraine. The commander of the Royal Canadian Navy is floating the idea of an ice capable amphibious landing ship to move troops and equipment around the Arctic. Hmm. That's enough world news for the day. All right, here's the Axios article about JD Vance's next moves. Who knows what these fucking idiots are doing? Let's just say it. These goddamn morons. Is there anyone I want to hear talk less than JD Vance? Literally fly above MAGA's rising civil war, campaigning coast to coast in the midterms, and sticking close to President Trump while building support for an expected presidential run in 28. Yeah, Trump's still alive, so he can't really do much. Here's an article about progressive. He's out here full on white supremacist, yes. Um, Here's an article from The Guardian talking about how the left has to catch up to the right's digital army. Politico talking about 2028, talking about who's winning. The Trump organization may sell 2028 hats, but even President Donald Trump bowed to the Constitution and acknowledged earlier this month he would not be the next Republican presidential nominee. It's not going to be me. Okay? So, a lot of people have put a lot of energy in he's going to run in 2028. He won't even fucking be here. Also, he said earlier this month he recognized he's not going to be the next presidential nominee. I get it. He's got dementia. He might change his mind, right? Burp. Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, Ro Khanna, and a bunch of other Democrats. So there you go. Here you go. 28 minutes ago. GOP coalescing behind Vance as Trump privately dismisses third term run. Hey, I actually guess we're talking about some news. This is relatively new. So there we go. That is some relief, I think, right? You don't have to flip out about wondering if Donald Trump was going to run for a third term or not. Salon.com. And Nancy Pelosi says the GOP has abolished Congress. And Pelosi says Republican lawmakers do nothing without Trump's say so. And then thinks Democrats take the House back in the midterms. And do nothing, by the way. Bank of America's CEO says the market will punish people if we don't have an independent Fed. The Federal Reserve is the nation's central bank, sets the interest rates. It cut interest rates for the third consecutive time. The rate at which banks should charge each other for short-term loans to between 3.5 and 3.75%. Interest rates had dropped to nearly zero during the COVID-19 pandemic, but steadily began to rise starting in 2022. December rate cut put the benchmark interest rates at their lowest level since 2022. They're pulling all of the emergency stops. Oh, and by the way, this administration's been putting out this 4.3% increase GDP year over year. That 4.3%, 4.1% of all of that growth is in 7 companies, AI. So there are 7 companies listed in the S&P 500 that are considered like the grandpapas of artificial intelligence, like the holders of AI. And we talked about Nvidia is one of those, and they're already selling off the AI arm of their business. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It started with a C. They're already parted ways. Facebook, big companies are already dumping their fucking AI. It's just fancy database management. It's not real. It's gonna absolutely destroy the stock market, which it should. It's gonna destroy companies that were super reliant on AI and not putting enough faith in people. There's a reason that I don't think the government should be supporting business at all is because corporations are heartless. Private equity is heartless. It doesn't give a fuck. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? Not even, I guess it's like a parasite. It takes a rising company. It injects it with fucking cash, forces it to fucking expand and bloat until it fucking explodes, and it's worth nothing. And then it just moves on to the next one. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Donald Trump was recently bragging about a 4.3% increase of GDP growth, and that deeper dive told you that 4.1% of that growth lies entirely within those 7 companies. So if you look at the S&P 493, which is the other fucking 493 companies in the S&P 500, 0.2% growth year over year. No, almost none. That's real bad. So understand that the only reason that 4.3% year over year number exists is because Donald Trump wanted to make sure it was just a little bigger than Joe Biden's best year. In case you wondered where the fuck that number came from. It's just a little bigger than any of the GDP growth Biden had year over year. I think 4.1, 4.2% was where he was for the high year over year GDP growth. Yeah. I don't want to bail any of these companies out. I believe this is going to be a reckoning. I'm a fanboy of Ro Khanna. I'm telling you, Ro Khanna. Getting shit done. Passing bills, cashing checks. The Epstein Files Transparency Act took just 5 months from concept to passage. Unusually fast for a political body where most legislation dies quietly in committee. For Trump, everything is a hoax. From Salon. Russia hoax. Democrat hoax. Epstein Files hoax. 2 impeachments hoax. The FBI is investigating Minnesota for a fraud scheme. It has deployed personnel and investigative resources to Minnesota's dismantle large-scale fraud schemes exploiting federal programs. The Trump administration in recent weeks has portrayed Minnesota's Somali immigrant community as a hotspot for fraud involving millions of federal dollars intended for social services. Most people charged in major fraud cases announced recently in Minnesota are of Somali descent, CBS News reported. Sounds racist as fuck. Allegedly inactive daycare facilities receive public funds. U.S. Representative Tom Emmer, a Minnesota Republican, shared the video Friday on social media asking for a response. J.D. Vance shared the report with his ex-followers the next day. So as you can see, smoke and mirrors, like right in front of your face. You think this shit? Yeah, they're not your fucking heroes, though. Hey, the HUD secretary, more research needs to be done on the 50-year mortgage proposal. So that's good before more people start buying houses with 50% 50-year fucking mortgages. 30 years is too long. That's too long. 50 fucking years, you'll never pay that off. The Bulwark reporting Donald Trump fired the nation's historian, former archivist Colleen Shogan. She should have kept doing her fucking job. It's important. Eight years later, 24 governorships make up 57% of the U.S. population. I didn't know this. Democrats fucked up in 2017 when Donald Trump won. They only controlled 17 governorships. Now they control 24, 57% of the country. People reporting. They're still talking about when Donald Trump gave a sort of a mild death threat. Dude, want the politicians to protect us. Yeah, I want them to. I want them to protect us and not take from us with the other hand, right? I don't want them being like, "Here's everything you could have hoped and dreamed." Meanwhile, I'm in their back pocket taking everything you got. You know what I'm saying? Hundreds of residents. Here's the Washington Post talking about climate change. Hundreds trying to get past my screen reader. Hate it. Hate the Washington Post. Oh, oh, here's Donald Trump with this stupid Jared Isaacman. Trying to take us back to the moon. Ain't nothing there, dog. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I hate what they've done to the Virginias. Here's Salon.com talking about shifting from coal mines to data centers. The same fucking thing. West Virginia is now on the front line of a national shift that most people won't notice till it shows up on their own bills. Water tables of the substation down the road. This goes far beyond typical Appalachian tragedies people are used to ignoring. Data centers and Bitcoin mines are remaking rural America the same way coal once did. They move into weak regulatory terrain, rewrite the rules in their favor, drain the resources that communities rely on, send the value somewhere else. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures, 37 states have modified tax codes and regulatory structures specifically to attract data centers, with billions in exemptions granted annually. Patterns clearest in West Virginia, where the script is old and the state has lived through every version of it. Good article. Way to go, Salon. An interesting take. An interesting take on artificial intelligence. I gotta hand it to dumb people. Okay. Here's the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. Here's the Wall Street Journal talking about if AI becomes conscious. Okay. Rep. Thaddeus Claggett. It sounds about like an idiot that would make a bill about what to do if AI becomes sentient. Checks notes. That's some sci-fi bullshit, not real life. Jesus fucking Christ. Wants to define all artificial intelligence systems as non-sentient entities. This article writer, Cameron Berg and Judd Rosenblatt, are really drinking the fucking AI Kool-Aid, though. Two things, right? On the one hand, it's kind of wild to introduce legislation to declare all AI non-sentient entities. That's kind of fucking great. You're giving it a title. Oh, fuck. Oh, oh. Notice how much time today have we spent talking about Venezuela? Not much, huh? Doesn't seem like there's much in the way of war going on between the US and Venezuela, is there? Crickets, right? Karl Rove says the Trump administration needs to talk more about their accomplishments ahead of midterms. Otherwise, they're going to get fog walked. I think the Epstein files are out and he doesn't care anymore. I feel like the resistance is weakening, or not the resistance. The empire's weakening The resistance is growing. I think their heads down. iNews reporting 2026 is going to be a terrible year for Donald Trump. I fucking agree and hope so. Angie said, "What accomplishments? They're fucking everyone over." Exactly. What have they fucking accomplished? Okay, here's a New York Times article talking about what the world would look like with zero immigration. No white people would be here. Wish we all had the zombie treatments to go wake before we're all robbed blind. A new report. Here's InsideClimateNews.org talking about all of the cuts to climate, like climate programs in the United States. People talk a lot about Build Back Better. Fortunately, what we're going to watch in the future is a more limiting of the power of the president. Is one of the things that I'll say early and fucking often. They are going to basically delegitimize the president, the role of president, so that this never happens again. hmm No one man should have all that power, right? All right. U.S. New York subway has ended its MetroCard era and has switched fully to tap and go fares. Replaced the subway token in '94. The swipeable plastic card infused much needed modernity. Now, more than decades later, the gold hued fare card are following the token into retirement. Omni, a contactless payment system, allows riders to tap their credit card, phone, or other smart devices to pay fares, much like they do for everyday purchases. So they're putting the swipe tab in the subway system. Pricing poor people out of transportation. I saw this article yesterday. I think before I was going to bed. Or maybe I saw this when I got up this morning. But a father has tracked his kidnapped daughter using the phone's parental controls. Suspect was partially nude when the kidnapped girl's father found her. 15-year-old girl was reported kidnapped from the Houston suburb of Porter on Thursday after her parents said she took her dog out for a walk and didn't come back. God damn. That's fucking tough. It located her and her dog inside a maroon colored pickup truck with a partially nude 23-year-old man. The man, Giovanni Rosales Espinoza, taken into custody without incident, charged with aggravated kidnapping and indecency with a child, the sheriff's office said, alleging he threatened the girl with a knife and abducted her off the street. Mm-mm-mm. Brigitte Bardot died. You'll recognize her face. French actor and singer. She became an animal rights activist. I mean, she was far right, so not exactly a saint. Yeah, what the fuck? Living in America. Records in the Attorney General Ken Paxton's divorce case are unsealed. A group of 8 media organizations requested records in the divorce case between Paxton, who's running for U.S. Senate. That's what that guy really looks like? Does he have a lazy eye? Or lazy eyes? Holy shit. That could be a really bad picture of him if that's not how he actually looks. But if he actually looks that way, holy shit. Is that what Ken Paxton? Ken Paxton looks like he's wearing another man's face for a mask. Anyway, I shouldn't make fun of people's appearance so much. Oh wow, two helicopters crashed. One person's dead, another one's injured in a midair helicopter crash in New Jersey. What the fuck? Why? No, all you can see is a video of the crash. What the fuck? Hope you all having a great weekend. Rich and voiceless. How Putin has kept Russia's billionaire on his side in the war. From the BBC. There's a little bit of news. Yeah. And remember, when we look at what's going on overseas, you could talk about what's happening back home, right? Boris Berezovsky claimed to have orchestrated Putin's ascent to presidency in 2000. Oh, that's who that guy is. He says, I didn't see the future greedy tyrant and usurper in him, the man who would trample freedom and stop Russia's development. And he's kind of made him. Heaviest snowfall in 4 years in New York State. I guess it's fitting for us to get around to the weather. Here's an article from The Independent talking about this administration and its willingness. He's KGB, so not a good dude. Hey, understand that Donald Trump has denied having anything to do with Project 2025, but it appears he's more than halfway done with the goals from Project 2025. So if not directly influenced, then definitely partially influenced by Project 2025. An FBI tip. I was going to say an FBI tip alleged Trump witnessed Epstein's victim's baby being killed and dumped in Lake Michigan. Are you surprised? No. Zohran Mamdani has clapped back at Elon Musk over his criticism of the FDNY chief pick. Experience does matter, which is why I appointed the person who spent more than 30 years at EMS. You know, the workforce that addresses at least 70% of all calls coming into FDNY. Smart man. Experience does matter. Hmm. Why am I not surprised? US F 35 fighter jets were available to fly only half the time in 2024 due to maintenance shortcomings by Lockheed Martin. Dump your Lockheed stock, what the fuck? Open season. Somebody is getting the contract to make all future US fighters. It ain't fucking Lockheed. Poor performance related to F-35 and sustainment. The audit found that the Pentagon paid Lockheed about $1.7 billion without any economic adjustment, even though the aircraft were unavailable to fly about half the time. The Pentagon, who has never passed an audit. The F 35 is the Pentagon's largest acquisition program, with lifetime costs estimated at more than $2 trillion, by the way, to purchase, operate, and sustain the aircraft. Here's an article from NBC News about 10 Senate races that will decide the balance of power in 2026. Oh, want to make sure we say Trump has urged the release of the Epstein files as long as it's got a Democrat's name in it. So understand we're at the part where the real, hey fam, we're at the part of the Epstein files where the president has acknowledged they're real and is begging for cut me some slack. Can you out some fucking Democrats, please? And take the heat off me? And I don't think Donald Trump is loved at all. I think that he conflated his popularity. He's far less liked than he's willing to admit, clearly. I think time will tell. I think that he's not a well person. He's not a good he's not he's certainly not loved. There are some psychos that are fans of him. It's not nearly as many as you think. Okay? Yeah. Remember that we said less than a quarter of the registered voters are Republicans. As we've been saying this whole time, you got to join a union. Unions are really important. Unions are the backbone in the fight against fascism. There's a reason I call myself a syndicalist. Okay, is because great political leaders are going to be the kind of people that are going to be union leaders, that are going to speak up for their union to get better wages and benefits for their coworkers and speak up for the voiceless. They make great political leaders because, again, we one of the things that we've talked about here about why I'm a socialist and why I believe we need universal health care, education, income, and housing is because the cost of all those things is skyrocketing. Meanwhile, the wages are stagnant, and it's gotten to the point where A majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And what this means is that your expenses and your income are equal, or you're spending more than you make. And it's because of the rising cost of living. It's because of inflation, the rising cost of goods and services relative to the rising cost of wages. You and I, we may have made more money over time, but our money now buys less than it used to buy. The only way we're going to ever get back is you have to raise the minimum wage. And then I think everyone needs $2,000 a month. $500 every Friday until you don't need it anymore. Until you just say, you know what? I got $4,000 left over after I pay all my bills. Here's my $2,000 back. Give it to someone, give it to someone else is fucking dumb when everybody gets it. But you get to a point where you just turn it down and say, I don't need it anymore. I can fly on my own. You know what I'm saying? Because you can only max your 401k contribution at like a little over $20,000 a year. So if ever you get to the part where you have excess money, more than like $2,000 to save after you pay all your bills every month, you could just turn it down. You don't actually need it because you can't invest that safely. So you should just turn it down. Hmm? It's literally an unwise thing to do to have more than you need. It's just unwise. So I expect people will not get to the spot where they don't need that money, because I think the cost of goods are going to continue to rise regardless of what happens otherwise. But I think in order for businesses to survive, many small to intermediate businesses and even some large corporations are going to die if we don't give people the money that they need to use those businesses, because the money's not there from the employer. If you can do you can it's called attacking a problem from both ends, right? Is saying we should work to increase the minimum wage. We should also work to provide universal healthcare, education, income, and housing. You know what I'm fucking learning about? The rising cost of fucking childcare. Again, I think the state should place, meaning the state is responsible for placing your child in child care. Hmm. I mean, you gotta understand, I think that kids are being fucking used from the time before it matters. They are little corporate entities that run around with company names on their sporting league shirts, and then they go to high school, and the success or failure of your high school athletic program is based on a financial investment. Got to have certain level of gear, pads. Yeah. Anytime you got more than like $2,000 left after it's all left over every month, that's when you start doing hard drugs and shit. I'm loaded. Let's do some blow. Let's do some meth. Let's do some finny. You know what I mean? Like when you no longer are needs being met, savings being achieved, which again, investing comes after saving, and people just are not able to invest. We do not live in a society that safely allows you to invest. The stock market not is okay. Um, Crypto alternative currency is not okay. Party time for the dogs. Yeah, we're about to. We took the dogs on a walk for this morning, and then Taylor and I went for a little road trip. So, thank you to everyone for being patient with us. Um, you know, I respect the fuck out of my wife for saying, like, postpone the show. Let's just go on a road trip, sort of unannounced, and just do it. We did that. We went and drove around for a little while. Drove around America. If I had Elon money and I needed my ego stroked, I would be a god. In other words, the white savior. Yeah. I definitely am sort of the sort of person, like, once my needs are met, I start looking around and seeing what can I do. Donald Trump bragging about eliminating 270,000 federal jobs. Remember, a Republican or a conservative historically have looked to preserve institutions. And so I want to just also throw this out there that this Trump regime is antithetical to what a Republican or a conservative has historically represented, and that is the maintenance, the maintaining of these programs, things like USAID, Medicare, Medicaid, these programs, they needed people to protect those things. And that's what the Republicans and conservatives were supposed to be doing: protecting the elderly, disabled, the poor, the worker. They were supposed to protect unions, right? Import warehouses? What the fuck is an import warehouse? Warehouse in Avenel, New Jersey. Workers assigned to stock Versace dresses, Swarovski crystals, and Louis Vuitton sneakers had settled into their shift one gray October morning when dozens of immigration agents swarmed the building and surrounded them. So I want to continue to point out high class Versace. That was Versace, Swarovski, Louis Vuitton using, and again, no one's illegal on fucking stolen land. I'm all for. I don't even give a fuck about your papers. Honestly, could give a fuck about shit like that. Are you safe? Are you here trying to hurt people? That's about all I give a fuck about. Just don't break any laws, right? Um, but look at all these luxury brands using immigrant labor. Keeps their profits high. Keeps those exclusive products exclusive. I'm reminded also to not shop with those companies too. And again, it has nothing to do with I secretly want to get rid of all them beaners. You get what I'm saying? No, I'm saying it's not okay to illegally have someone come into this country and work for you so you can pay them nothing and give them no insurance, and they're not eligible for any benefits. And I want to make sure that no matter what anyone tells you, and I don't care who that person is, keep this in mind. When someone comes into this country illegally and they are an illegal immigrant, they pay taxes. Typically, they still pay taxes, and they don't have a social security number, so they're not actually eligible for any of the benefits. Any of the benefits, any of the benefits that are given. No unemployment, no food stamps. They don't get those things, right? They're not eligible. But look, make sure you look. Versace, Swarovski, Louis Vuitton have no problems in the light of what's going on with the Trump regime, to use illegal immigrants to do their warehouse work here in the United States, right? And also not cheerleading immigration. And I'm also not saying ICE should be doing raids on these places. This is not even what ICE is supposed to be doing. Okay? And again, a lot of presidents historically have interjected their personal faith with their role in office. Okay? So while it is kind of sad to see the president blur the line between church and state, it's not. I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Let's get out of here. Been here 90 minutes. Get rid of all those illegals, right? Okay. How about you vet them and give them an opportunity to become American citizens? You know, one of the things that I've heard in talking with people that are legal immigrants is how long they had to wait to get an opportunity to become an American citizen. Now, understand the whole time you're here, if you're here on some sort of green card or visa status, you still aren't eligible for a whole lot of stuff. And one of the things that I've learned over the course of history is people that came here and tried to become legal immigrants and had struggled to do so, they're also hardly able to get educated until you're an American citizen, and then you can use our education system. Now you can use like the public schools as system, right? But understand, largely the good shit that you want to get out of being an American citizen, you don't get unless you have a fucking social security number. Can't get student loans. So again, you know, I think it's bad form in the light of climate change, and it's our fault to be anti-immigrant. That's what I think. Like we did all this evil shit. It's our fault. Whole ass countries are getting wiped off the face of the fucking earth. What do you mean you're anti-immigrant? This is a nation of immigrants. This country was built by immigrants. Immigrants do all of the hard labor that white people don't do. That's why there are so many immigrants, because white people won't do the work. Who are all bots? A little bit of eat the rich, a little bit of weather. Let's get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Oh boy! Oh boy. So, one of the problems that we're going to run into is all of the verified viewers whose marks on that map are going to confuddle the message. Okay? So, one of the things that I see when I look at this, the west is pretty clear. A little bit of ice, a little bit cold in Cali, and then really until you get to New Mexico, eastern New Mexico, eastern Montana, and east. Okay? So in the south, what is that? The southern border of Virginia, all the way across, pretty clear. But then, yeah, once you're up in North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, parts of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, yeah, Ohio, into New York and Pennsylvania are all going to get smacked. Uh, Blizzard whiteouts in Iowa and Minnesota. Zero visibility. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Not livable environments. Keep your head on a swivel, please. No surprises. Definitely don't. Can't imagine waking to the horror. Remember all the racists that wear Louis V. All the racists that are swear on Swarovski. What was the other one? Louis Vuitton, Swarovski, and using illegal immigrant labor, and I'm almost willing to bet you they called it on themselves. Yeah. Anyway, love y'all. Don't want you poor people wearing their clothes. I keep going. It's crazy. They would use illegal immigrants as labor, but they don't want those people wearing their shit. And they priced you out of that. You can't even afford that.